The National Investor's motto is, you can get information anywhere, but here you get knowledge. And for well over 40 years now, Chris Temple has imparted that knowledge, an unparalleled, understandable, and useful take on the big picture of the markets and of our world. He has been out in front of what you see on the news every day on many themes. More, Chris has taken this macro knowledge and his unique analytical abilities to uncover unique investment opportunities. Often, he has guided his members to big winners in resources, biotech stocks, and more. His talents and connections often getting him into ground floor opportunities before they are discovered. Without further ado, here is Chris with today's topic.
Welcome back again, folks. In today's update, we're going to catch up for the first time in a little while with my good friend of many years, Victor Cantore. He's the CEO of Amex Exploration. As you see here on the screen, they are listed in Toronto under the symbol AMX, and in the US on the OTCQX under the symbol AMXEF. We've got a media update for you today, a few news items that the company has put out in the recent past that we want to kind of package all together in what is one of the premier district plays in all of Canada, notably in this particular case in Eastern Canada in the Abitibi region. Now, before I bring Victor on, the usual preliminaries, as you're all familiar with, I'm sure. First of all, Victor and or myself may be making what are construed as forward-looking statements. We'll never intentionally tell you anything that we know is wrong, but sometimes things develop at a different speed in a different way than what you plan. So as always, do your own due diligence on this story. Secondly, as you also see here on the screen, Amex Exploration has for a few years now been a recommendation of mine at the National Investor. Companies do not pay us to be recommended to the National Investor. I vet and recommend companies based on their merits. Sometimes after that fact, from time to time, as Amex Exploration has done, we are compensated by the company to do some follow-on marketing and copywriting and so forth, of which this video is an example. So we want to let you know that as well. Make sure that you keep up with Amex, right now with all of the volatility in the markets and the tariff and trade wars and looming, I think, currency and debt crises rolling throughout the world as well, because we're at a very pivotal time in history, as I've been explaining recently in the context of the tariff wars and budget issues here in the U.S. and so forth. Gold is still pretty much at the top of my list as far as commodity/metal stories that I think are going to do the best no matter what happens in other markets. And given that, you want to focus a decent part of your portfolio on those exploration stories that are really outliers, that have got the best story, the best upside potential as far as growing ounces. They would be the most attractive to a suitor, perhaps down the road, etc. And Amex is one of those companies on my recommended list that I think checks the boxes that you want to look at. So make sure you keep up with them, keep up with yours truly, because as time goes on, and again, never a dull moment. I've done 4 interviews already this week, and it's Thursday, April the 10th, and other ones coming up. If you're on my mailing list, you'll get a synopsis of all of those on my usual weekend distribution. So you need to really stay plugged in with what's going on in the markets and in the world these days. But specifically where Amex is concerned, there's been a few items in the recent past that I want to share with you. First of all, this morning, and we're recording this on Thursday morning, April the 10th, the company announced before the markets opened that it had closed on an acquisition they announced recently of the Perron West project. And this really augments, in my view, the district potential of the whole Perron property. They multiplied, as Victor will explain, their footprint geographically by several times compared to the already robust land package they had before. It's exciting stuff. It's going to take a while to flesh all of this out, but there's no shortage of targets for them to grow the resources that they already have. Number 2, the company announced early this week that they had had some additional drilling success at what's called the Central Polymetallic Zone. And that is something that is not really the headline story of Amex these days. When the company put out its initial resource last year on the Perron project, they deliberately wanted to stay with just a gold-centric story and not confuse things. But as those of you who have followed the story and my coverage of it, my previous conversations with Victor already know, there is massive upside potential in this area for the company as well when it comes to copper, nickel, et cetera. So some recent drilling success there. We'll ask Victor about what the priorities are for 2025 to flesh that out even further along with everything else. And finally, we want to go back and revisit the initial mineral resource estimate from last year and what the current plans are to grow that into a feasibility study. Of course, the resource is going to continue to grow as time goes on. And as I said at the time when Amex came out with this and the markets misunderstood it, that and the subsequent price weakness, in my opinion, is a gift to long-term investors because this is a premier project. And I think that as the market comes to understand anew just how much upside there is and the reasons why management decided to take the methodical approach and mine building approach, not just drilling for the sake of drilling and saying, oh, goody, look at all these ounces we got, but showing that these, I think eventually multiple deposits could become mines. This is why they did what they did, and we're going to go back and ask Victor about that, as well as how in 2025 they plan to augment that resource and all the other plans that they've got. And here is Victor Cantore, Amex's CEO. Victor, thanks for joining me from on the road. You're at a conference in Phoenix right now.
That's correct. I'm in a conference in Phoenix, nice and warm here. Yeah, marketing. We continue marketing. We need to tell the good story out there.
Well, and it is a great story. And I want to start today, as I said before you came on, with this morning's news where you announced that fairly soon after you made the first announcement that you've now closed on a massive acquisition, Perron West. When you and I saw one another in Miami a couple months back, you were kind of teasing a little bit about how you're looking to do something like this, and you certainly did grow by several times your overall footprint there. So tell us about how that came about.
Yeah, well, we've had our eyes on this project for a while. And today, knowing that one day this will be a mine, our project will be a mine, all the property around it will all be, becomes much more valuable. So we did do another due diligence on the property, and we had a structural geologist look at it, and they're seeing a mirror image on the other sside as the Beaupré block. The Beaupré block is what hosts most of the gold. On top of that, there's that land package. Now we had a land package of 45 square kilometers. Now it's 191 square kilometers. And it's not there's a lot of gold showings, copper showings, lead zinc showings on that property. So we're gonna take we're definitely gonna do it. We're definitely gonna explore it this year. But I think it's very accretive. It really adds a lot to the project, and I think it makes it attractive also. A lot of the larger producers love these large, what they call district scale land packages, and I won't stop there. If there's if more comes up, and again, if you look at the cost of acquisition, it was not an expensive deal at all for that kind of land size
No.
in a greenstone belt
Mhm.
and with historical workings on it. And that's the way we're going to continue doing it. It's all about enhancing shareholder value.
Well, and that's one of the first things when you were first telling me about this project and adding this property. I said, wow, it's one thing if you found this out in the middle of nowhere that had no infrastructure, no existing mines, no past producing mines or anything else around it, but you got a sweet deal on some ground in one of the best gold camps in the world. And again, nearby, and we're going to get to this in a few minutes, your existing resource at Perron, which you're going to look to grow, of course, further this year. But so the main targets this year, and you say you're going to do some work on it at Perron West. Are you looking to augment uh, solely precious metals there? Do you see polymetallic chances as well?
Oh, there are polymetallic chances, but our main focus is really gold. That's really what we're going after is gold. We're primarily a gold company. There's a lot of polymetallic potential in that entire package. I mean, there was the past producing mine just next door to us, which had 10 million tons of 2% copper with a bunch of
Right.
other credit. What makes it really interesting there, where the polymetallic, I got an eye on it, but I haven't, you got to stay focused and, and really think about dilution. So we are focused on gold. But when you have the Horn smelter an hour and a half away that needs feed, it's you don't need to find 50 million tons. A couple of million tons, you can already start to ship it down and create revenues. But that's going to be something for later as we're looking at creating revenues.
Now, also something for later, you and I have discussed the same thing before because you want to make sure that the market stays focused on what's a very robust gold story, and I think will become more so as time goes on. But with your existing land package that you had prior to this, you've done a little bit of work, and you came out with some pretty cool news earlier this week from the Central Polymetallic Zone, and this is an area where you've already had showings in the past of some nice grades of copper and nickel. What are your near-term plans for that? Are you just trying to increase the visibility a little bit so that people see that this is lurking potentially in the future?
Yeah, so that zone, the central polymetallic zone, there was actually a resource in like when we reported a resource, it actually made it into the resource.
Okay.
It was a very small ounce count in there. So there was as we were doing analysis, we were seeing that there was potential to grow it. So we put in a couple of holes to grow it. But yes, the definitely what we're really working on is continuing to expand all the zones and definitely in the known zones to expand the known zones is what's easier. And it's something that we spoke about to the market that we want to expand the known zones already. It's like going after the low hanging fruit. But the property, again, I always say we've explored maybe 4.5 kilometers of these prolific faults that is a little over 20 kilometers of that just on the Perron property. No, I'm not talking about the Perron West. That's a whole other thing. There's still a lot more potential in on the Perron property itself, including for discoveries, not just expanding the known zones, but also making new discoveries. I mean, we're on the hunt for another high grade zone, and hopefully we can get one of those soon.
Well, and you're going to be doing some more exploration this year there. Now, to remind folks, you came out with a maiden resource at Perron last year. The market initially was disappointed with the number of ounces, not understanding that there's a lot more upgrades to come from drilling you've already done and reported, let alone what's coming later. But more so, and I think this is critically important, I've been explaining this till I'm blue in the face. You and I have discussed this that the marketplace increasingly now, with gold being so strong, with all of the turmoil going on in the world, it's starting to attract new and renewed, if you will, blood to the precious metal space. In the recent past, flows have turned positive again in the US, even in the ETFs. It's going to take a little while longer to trickle down to the best exploration stories. But what everybody wants to see going forward is this idea, show me the money. You came out with a great initial resource, very economical, and I think one that would give phenomenal cash flow. And you did it when gold was several $100s less than it is
Yeah.
right now. So your plan certainly this year, Victor, is to grow that Perron resource, not only by infill drilling and whatnot, I think, but also by doing more drilling in a very, very fertile area. So unpackage that for us as far as what the 2025 drilling game plan is.
Yeah, so we did promise last year when we did put out the resource that at some point we will put out a new one with a new PA at some point this year. So that's to come. But I think the biggest misunderstanding of our resource when we reported it is that it is a mine. Like you can convert this into a mine, and that's why we put out a PA. Like what I say to everybody is that if somebody puts out a resource and it's years after that resource and there's still no PA, I can only think of one reason. It's very simplistic in my view, is that it's not economic. Because why wouldn't you put something out? And so people thought that, oh, are they going to have to go drill another 500,000 meters, to get another couple of million ounces? No, we can turn this into we can turn this into a producer, and you can get into an aggressive program after that by using the free cash flow. I mean, when you look at the free cash flow that this produces, and that was a $2,000 gold. So I think what you have to do right now is definitely continue exploration, because there's so much upside, and also to turn this into a near term producer, which you can. When you look at all the infrastructure around, it's not going to be one of these multi-billion-dollar projects, and far from it. I mean, all you got to do is refer back to our PA, and you can see how low, what a low capex this has.
Well, and that's what's critically important, folks, to remember about Amex's story is that, there's an old saying, if you want to find a new gold mine, look underneath the shadow of the head frame of an existing gold mine or an old gold mine.
Yeah.
And there's very few places on planet Earth where that's as true as it is in Eastern Canada, the Abitibi Greenstone Belt, all of these different areas there where you've got all kinds of infrastructure and so forth, and where you can come out with a decent resource. I mean, even on last year's PEA, you'd be looking at several years of 100,000 or so ounces production. And I mean, frankly, I think that's only going to get better as you increase the confidence on the ounces there, as you add to them in and around the Perron area. I mean, this is going to be phenomenal. So this year, then, Victor, you want to augment this resource. I think you're going to have a game plan of turning some of the inferred ounces into measured and indicated as well.
Yeah, there's going to be eventually there'll be a new resource, and we'll see how the numbers will show. But yes, you definitely want to show if you want to put it into production, you definitely want to have way more M&I than you have inferred. It's definitely the path to continue this exploring and look at to turning this into a near-term producer. In order to see that, you'll end up seeing, permitting, so we're gonna have to work on all that, and bring it out to the market to show how we will position ourselves as a near-term producer.
And you'll be able to answer that need that newer investors coming back in have. Show me the money. You're going to show them some money, and you're going to show them some economics that are there. And that's more important because, and I love the way you made the point that I followed my share of stories over the years, and I know you have as well, where everybody gets wowed temporarily over drill intercepts and a resource, and then you're waiting forever to see something come of it. And you can make something come of this in, relatively speaking, pretty short order. So that's great. Well, Victor, I'm going to be looking forward to this as the year goes on. And folks, I can't stress enough that with the tailwind that gold has, you're going to be hearing a lot more from me in the near term as to why this is. So if you're not already on my mailing list, make sure here's the information again to follow along with me, because gold is still one of my top 3 stories among commodities. And as a teaser, number 2 is uranium, and number 3 is natural gas. Although right now, I think, Victor, after the beating that oil has taken lately, which I think is a little overdone, I don't think the oil long term is a bad bet either.
Right.
But gold is at the top of the list for a whole host of reasons you'll be hearing more about, and you can't do a whole lot better with your portfolio than to take a position in Amex, in my view, is this household here has done, because this is just a great long-term story. So, Victor, congratulations on your success to date. Give everybody down in Phoenix at the conference my regards, and I look forward to catching up again soon.
Great. Thanks. I will give your regards and catch up soon. Thanks a lot, dears.
All right.
For much more of the National Investor's cutting-edge content and actionable investment opportunities, make sure to subscribe to Chris's free content at nationalinvestor.com. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel too. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.